stuff. Highs should get up into that 80 range or thereabouts. So enjoy it while you have it. Hey Google, hey Alexa worldwide, play the Pulse of an H. Jack Heath, as I said, J-Dog on the boards. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning, Maine. Good morning, New England. Good morning, worldwide at the Pulse of an H. A lot going on this morning as we get going, and our poll question up on X at the Pulse of an H has to do with those economic sanctions against Iran. Do you think they will lead to an end of the war with Iran? Yes or no, the economic sanctions. And we'll have those results for you, and also get back to the results from yesterday in our poll question, brought to you by R&D Paving as well. And we're going to begin the show talking some politics and the big U.S. Senate matchup here. Of course, the primary is just 2 weeks away. And on the Republican side, it's John E. Sununu and Scott Brown, former U.S. Senator, and of course, Sununu, former Senator and member of Congress. That's the big matchup. And Chris Pappas, probably the leading Democrat, a presumptive nominee, even though he has challengers. But the news this morning is that Mr. Sununu is not going to debate in the WMUR TV debate that was going to feature Brown and Sununu next week. He's going to skip out of that debate. Not sure why, but Scott Brown has a reaction, and he joins us live this morning on the Pulse of an H. Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you and your listeners.
Well, when did you hear about this, and what's your reaction to it?
Well, we were all scheduled to go at 10 o'clock today to go to the walkthrough, flip the coins, all that good stuff. And the news director called me last night and said, hi, I got some bad news. John is not coming, and he's backing out of the debate. And I go, why? He says, he wouldn't tell us. And, you know, my first reaction was, you know, obviously disappointment, but more importantly, disappointment for the voters of New Hampshire, because especially in the rural areas, this is the only opportunity they get to actually hear the candidates. And, you know, this is kind of he says on his website, oh, New Hampshire way, I'm doing it the New Hampshire way. Well, the New Hampshire way is to get to the voters and go and meet them. And he's basically doing this back porch campaign. He's not working hard. He's not showing up. And, you know, I'm quite frankly surprised. It's never happened. I was told by the news directors, never happened in the history of MUR debates that candidates cancel. Never. And here we are. Mr. New Hampshire, according to him, he's going to blow it off. And I think it's sad, quite honestly.
Well, you know, again, I give my own opinions, but, you know, your thoughts. You feel that John E. Sununu is avoiding debates with you, or what?
Well, yeah, we had a debate in Hampton, and he didn't do well, you know, bottom line. And, you know, he probably is looking at his own polling that has me down 4,000 points and doesn't want to debate. Well, newsflash, we have our own polling, and if I thought I wasn't going to have a chance to win this thing, I wouldn't be running. And we've been surging. As you know, we've been on your show now for 3 weeks advertising. We're on all the multimedia, CCTV. And, yeah, I think he's afraid. And, you know, MUR, they should actually, you know, say, listen, we're holding the debate, and we're going to have a chair, so you should show up. But, you know, I'm hopeful that they'll put some pressure on him and not just, you know, give him the easy way out and the kid's glove treatment. Because, once again, it's really not about me. It's about the voters not having an opportunity. Because don't forget, he's been away for 20 years. You really don't know where he stands on issues because he hasn't taken any tough questions. And when you took him in Hampton, he wasn't ready for prime time. And Chris Pappas, respectfully, you know, he's been doing this for a while. He's ready to go. I saw him the other night in a Salem debate, which once again John didn't show up, and I debated myself.
Well,
and if he can't debate me, how's he going to, you know, debate Chris Pappas if he's the winner?
What do you think the main differentiators are between you and Mr. Sununu in this Republican primary? Voters are going to know the Sununu name, but a lot of voters now know your name because of past races, and you've been in the Senate mass. You ran for the Senate here. What are the main differences between the two of you going against Chris Pappas? So a Sununu vote, a Brown vote. Give me two main differences between you and Sununu.
Well, don't forget, I was also confirmed 94-4 as New Hampshire's representative to New Zealand, Cook, Niue, Samoa, almost 4 years as a diplomat. One of the main differences, as evidenced by what's happening right now, is I show up. I actually try to earn people's support and answer any and all questions without any filters. John hasn't been showing up for almost 20 years. And he's not showing up now. He's not answering questions to people. It's all controlled. It's being basically driven by D.C., not New Hampshire. This is not the New Hampshire way. But the military experience, the diplomatic experience, being a grandfather, understanding the challenges of young families, those are really distinct differences. He doesn't have that experience. I've been here helping people, helping causes, candidates, doing our backyard barbecues, active in youth sports, coaching, substitute teaching. He hasn't done any of that. You know what? He made $2.6 million in stock alone at Boston Scientific and another $4.5 million in salary. And yet this is a company that's been exporting jobs to China, doing DEI, for forever. At their company, and he didn't speak up. He didn't say anything. And those are the types of things that I want to fight for and actually work hard to protect is New Hampshire values, and he's not doing it. And once again, it's a disservice, and it's not the New Hampshire way.
Are you saying the Boston Scientific compensation is improper, or is it totally fine? You're just raising the question.
No,
about...
I don't begrudge anybody, but bottom line is he has not been working for New Hampshire or even lived in New Hampshire. He's been in D.C., working for the Lloyd's of London, the World Economic Forum, and a whole host of other things. And while I don't begrudge anybody, it comes down to, what are the things you support? Are you going to actually support the exporting of jobs to China? Are you going to actually support, the DEI, pushing it to not only your suppliers, but also, to your employees? I mean, these are things that I don't accept, I don't agree with. And once again, he hasn't explained any of these things, answered any of these questions, and that's part of the problem.
Scott Brown live. Good morning, New Hampshire. The Pulse of an Age. Talking about the U.S. Senate race, the Republican primary. As far as the WMUR debate, you basically were told what you said by the news director that the Sununu camp is skipping it, bagging out of it, or not showing up. So as far as you know, that's not going to happen.
That is correct, Amundo.
All right. Scott Brown live this morning. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an Age. Thank you for joining us live.
Thank you.
Now, I did reach out to John E. Sununu's media person to see if he wants to check in with any comment this hour, and I'm waiting a response. This sort of happening this morning. Before we go to a break, I want to mention just my own thoughts on this. Unfortunately, we've seen a trend in some of the recent New Hampshire elections where some candidates, major candidates, don't feel they need to debate. They don't feel they need to debate. And it might be because their handlers and out-of-state consultants tell them that they have the race won. You're going to win, so don't take any chances, don't debate. The issue here, in my opinion, and some commentary, is we've had the New Hampshire presidential primary for a lot of years because of our civic engagement, because of our engaging the public and answering questions and going into places and showing up with your opponent and doing what I call old school healthy debates. In other states where they don't have this, you can do some commercials, get a few endorsements, and you don't really have to press the flesh, as they say. But in New Hampshire, we do it differently. We always have. And the Sununu family, John E. Sununu's father, his brother Chris, 4-term, 2-year governor here. I don't think there was a time that I ever asked him as governor, Governor Chris Sununu, if he would show up in my studio and do a debate, an hour or an hour and a half with his opponent, whether it was Tom Sherman, a candidate for governor on the Democrat side from Rye. Chris Sununu always seemed to relish the opportunity. So I don't know what's going on behind the scenes in the John E. Sununu campaign. He has served in Congress and the Senate before. He's taken part in these formats. I did invite recently, it was about a month ago when Scott Brown had been on the show, I asked him would he show up in my studios and do an hour with me, just, one-on-one with Sununu and Brown, asking questions about everything from foreign policy, the war in Iran, the War Powers Authorization Act, cost of living, things like that. Brown said yes, and the Sununu camp declined. So I'm not stunned or shocked that Mr. Sununu doesn't want to debate, but the WMUR debate was kind of it. We're 2 weeks away from the primary, and according to Brown and others in the news this morning. John Easton, who is going to be a no-show at the WMUR TV debate. Whether or not it matters to voters, that's up to voters. But as Bill Gardner, the former Secretary of State, who was on with me live a few weeks ago talking about the Democrat National Committee bypassing the New Hampshire First in the Nation presidential primary on their calendar and going third. Gardner's quote was, "Things like the primary and our political civic engagement will always remain high if voters care and want to participate and want to hear from the candidates directly." I'll leave it at that. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Some of our political analysis coming up a little bit later on. That Clancy murder trial in Massachusetts is days away from going, for an outcome in terms of what happens with the mother accused and charged with killing her 3 children. We're going to hear from a former prosecutor in New Hampshire what that's like working with cases like this. Also, Mike Cody, New Hampshire Business Review. Our poll question up on X at the Pulse of an H. Do you think the economic sanctions against Iran and the countries that would do business with Iran will not help, but will lead to an end of the war? Yes or no? That poll question is up on X at the Pulse of an H. We thank our friends at R&D Paving. Back on the Pulse of an H, Brad Card on deck next.
Sundays at 3 on the Pulse of This is the Pulse of New Hampshire. This is Good Morning New Hampshire with Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we get an update on a lot of the primary stuff. South Carolina, other states today. Paul Steinhauser weighing a little bit later live from Fox. He's covering these. Brad Card paying attention as well. One of our political analysts and all-stars, co-host of Contact Politics. Good morning, Brad.
Yeah, hey, Jack.
Well, you know both John E. Sununu and Scott Brown. We just had Brown on. I've reached out to the Sununu camp. The WMUR, the debate next week. I guess they were supposed to do a walkthrough this morning, Brown and Sununu, and according to Scott Brown, who just was on live, the WMUR TV news director called him last night to inform him that the Sununu camp or Sununu would not be debating and not showing up this morning for the walkthrough of the debate next week. You know, we've seen this in other races, and some would say debates are not as important as they used to be, but it is kind of the New Hampshire way. Any thoughts or reaction to this?
Well, I'm of the belief when you run campaigns, no matter what campaign you run as if you're losing, and you run to continue to get your message out, and you pound the pavement, and you wake up early, and you shake hands, and you go to diners, and you get out. And they say half of life is showing up. And I maybe there's a reason why John is not going to participate in this. And I'd certainly give him the benefit of the doubt in that. But look, it's a very common thing for campaigns to look at this and look at polling. And you and I have had many, many conversations about polling. And we've seen polling be right, and we've seen it be way off. Mm-hmm. That's why I think when you run, and you run as if any poll you have is showing you losing, in my opinion. So look at John's skilled at what he does. He knows what he's doing. His campaign is a professional organization. Polling suggests that he's way in front, and it's a cautious move. I think it's more risky. I was trying to think, as you're saying this, is there a time that I can remember candidates skipping debates at WMUR? And I'm sure there have been some. I just can't come up with one off the top of my head. Mm-hmm. So, again,
the only one I can think of is I'm not sure if Maggie Hassan and Don Bolduc, if they I think they did the WMUR debate. I think you're right. It's rare because it is the, I spent a lot of years there at WMUR. It is the one, obviously people are not watching TV news and these debates may be non-consequential, but my point a moment ago, and you made the point about running like you're behind, is the New Hampshire way and the presidential stuff and these races is direct voter engagement, not playing the games of another big state like where they kind of game it, they do the ads, they get the endorsements, they try and manipulate the nomination. That's not the New Hampshire way, is it?
So I step back and I'm trying to. Politics is personal, and candidates invest their heart and soul in these campaigns, and it's their families, and it's a daunting task, and you and I have talked about it as well. It takes a lot of guts to put your name on a ballot and to put yourself through public scrutiny, and to go out, and it becomes very personal. I watched the debate online between Senator Brown and Senator Sununu, and I really thought they were both very cordial to one another. I don't think Scott Brown was playing gotcha politics with Sununu. Many times he said, I know he said, like, if I don't win this, I'm going to support you, and I'm going to. So I thought they were very cordial to one another. And I thought Senator Sununu was cordial with Scott Brown, too. I mean, they're different personalities, certainly. And I just think that I don't necessarily think I would handicap a debate as being a huge risk. I think they're both pros. They've been in the game a long time. And I'm sure they have policy differences. My guess is they don't have a ton of policy differences. I'm sure there are some, but clearly the policy differences they have between one another pale in comparison to the policy differences they would have with Congressman Pappas. And you are talking about two different things. So I think that they both focused on Pappas. In my opinion, they both talked about what Democrats are doing and where this party's going. I think that you run the risk of, I think Senator Sununu almost gave an opportunity for Senator Brown to take some shots at him now, which is not great to unite a party. But when you could say things like, look, if you can't stand up to me, how are you going to stand up to Donald Trump on things that you don't agree with? And even though, Donald Trump...
Well, the other question is Chris Pappas. I mean, the other question
and that's
is...
what Scott has talked about. Why, are you going to stand up to him when he's wrong? And are you going to be with him when he's with him and when he's right? And are you going to be against him when he's wrong? So...
Yeah, the question is going to be, it's clear to me, Brad Card, live, one of our political analysts and all-stars, and is that the Sununu camp feels they have this thing won. They feel that this thing's already won. They're focusing on Chris Pappas, I would imagine. I mean, if you really cut to the chase, they probably feel, let's just save our powder, focus on the general election, Chris Pappas, we have it won. And again, they may well have it won. You look at Maggie Goodlander, you could say that she, in the 2nd Congressional District, Democrat, may have it won. I don't think anyone in the 1st Congressional District races have it won. You could say Chris Pappas may have it won. But in the Maggie Goodlander case, I think she's still engaging. I think the Sununu camp, some people might perceive this as overconfident, but again, they may feel it's not worth the risk doing a debate. I think that's what it all boils down to. And don't get me wrong, there are risks when you go into debates. Part of me thinks between Scott Brown and John Sununu, they're both professionals. They're both pros. They know what they're doing, and they're highly educated on governing, on what happens in the Senate. They both served in the Senate. So I think they're both good on issues. And again, I'm not sure when you have a wild card guy coming up who's throwing bombs all day, I guess I could agree with you. I haven't followed the race on a day-to-day basis or anything. I can read the polling like everybody else. And so I didn't see fireworks per se when Sununu and Brown debated. And what I saw, I thought it was pretty cordial. Yeah. And I mean, Brad, you and I know
respect each other.
You've been a chief of staff. You know this stuff very well. I think there's a cost-benefit analysis. And again, what's sad is not so much the Sununu Brown story. Excuse me. What's sad is not the Sununu Brown story by itself. What is regrettable is the New Hampshire political environment of out-of-state type politics tactics kind of spilling in here. Because typically going into the living room, going into the diner, debating, that's what you do in New Hampshire. We've seen Republican primaries where there's 8 or 9 candidates running, and they all debate. Presidential, state, governor, and it just is surprising. I'll be totally candid. You were candid. I'll cut to the chase. To me, it's very clear the Sununu camp, they feel it's not worth the risk. We have it won. Period. That's probably all it is, in my opinion. There's no other reason I can see last minute not doing this one big debate. They probably feel it's just not that big of a deal. Why take the risk?
Right.
But you know what it is, Brad, it's New Hampshire. And it's a little surprising that a Sununu, because the family's been so engaged, so involved, like the Judd Gregg and like the Shaheen family, just, civic engagement. So when I see these trends like other big states, it's regrettable because you see that civic engagement. And as Bill Gardner said recently on my show about the presidential primary and the National Democrat Party, snatching our primary and not respecting it. as long as the voters fight for engagement and direct contact, we preserve that New Hampshire high voter participation engagement. But if you are apathetic about it and you don't give a damn, you're going to see more of these big campaigns where out-of-state consultants and managers just say, you don't have to do that. Just, don't worry about that.
There are cases too where if you don't show up at a debate, it has backfired. I think the thing that jumps out to me is Joe Crowley, who was a congressman from Queens, he was very popular. He was going to challenge Nancy Pelosi to be speaker, and he was in Democrat leadership in the House of Representatives. And there was a young upstart bartender that nobody put a lot of stock in, and he didn't debate her. He didn't show up for the debate, and he got politically crucified in the district. And we all know what happened. AOC is that person, and she's running around, and she's in some camps polling pretty well to run for president, which is scary to me. But so I think to some people the debates matter. It is different in today's day and age. We have a lot of social media. It's different, so there's a lot of ways people can get their message out. So it's not as incumbent, I think, to be on the networks and to maybe do these as it used to be, because you can get your message out to people. But I agree, at least old schoolers like you and me, Jack, we're both gray. We both have a lot of gray hair. Historically,
but at least we have some. At least we have some up there, Brad.
Yeah, my
all right.
understanding.
We got to sneak in a break. We'll come back. Brad Card, live. Good Morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an Age on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Back in a moment.
This is the Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we are back. Brad Carr staying with us, going to come back and talk about South Carolina primary there today. Economic D-Day sanctions, and will they be effective? That's our poll question up on X. Will they help end this war with Iran? The Secretary of Treasury talking about them. The president saying they'll be the most severe ever imposed to try to economically cripple or isolate the Islamic State of Iran. John Decker, our own White House correspondent. Good morning, Mr. John.
Hey, good morning to you. Hope you're doing well today, Jack.
Yeah, I hope you're getting ready to go see Roger Federer in Newport and get into the Hall of Fame for tennis.
Yeah, I am. That's coming up Thursday, Friday, Saturday in Newport, Rhode Island. So looking forward to that. It's going to be really a special weekend in Newport.
Yeah.
Roger Federer, one of the greatest players of all time.
Class act. And so if you want to, one of the mornings in 10, just say, hey, Roger, Jack's a tennis guy. I'm a tennis guy. He's a friend. I'm on his show. I'm the White House correspondent. Just call him on the cell phone real quick and say hello. He'd probably say, sure. I'll do that, John. Hey, John,
absolutely.
Economic D-Day. Brad Card also with us. What do you think? Going to be is this going to be consequential or not?
Well, nothing was implemented yesterday in terms of what Secretary Bessent announced. He announced sanctions that the U.S. could put in place against Iran, but he's giving Iran some time to essentially find a diplomatic solution. Also, keep in mind, Jack, that we've gone down this road before. You remember Operation Economic Fury? That was back in April. So here's another go at trying to squeeze Iran economically, and it's so difficult to squeeze them economically to the point that the U.S. wants when you have China giving them an economic lifeline. You know, China purchases 90% of Iranian oil. It's Iran's number one trading partner, and as long as that continues, it's just really difficult to completely isolate the government of Iran.
Brad Carter, anything for John on the economic D-Day?
No, I agree with what John just said right there. And it takes quite a while for economic policies to really take hold and put a lot of pressure on. And what we've seen is Iran doesn't mind harming their own people. They're immune to that in the government, it seems like. So if this does happen, it's not going to have a real immediate, quick impact for them to change their policies. Don't you think so, John?
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, I mean, it's we've seen this play itself out before, and you know, I've spoken to administration officials about trying to impose tougher sanctions on Russia as it relates to the war in Ukraine, and their response has always been to me, yeah, but sanctions don't really work. You know, I don't know why you'd have sanctions work in this particular case, but they wouldn't work against Russia. You know, again, if you have one country, and in fact, you could even argue two countries, because Russia is included in that. Russia is an ally of Iran. So if you have Russia and China continuing to help the government of Iran out, difficult to find a place where they're capitulating. And in addition to that, since that announcement by Secretary Bessent, and again, it takes time, we haven't seen any country come forward and publicly say, you know what, we're going to cut off all trade with Iran and follow the U.S. lead on this. Except
for UAE. But, you know, the thing is, the only encouraging thing here is the president of Iran, who I don't think has a lot of power, has been more outspoken lately. And that means he doesn't fear he's going to be killed. So, you know, in terms of wanting to end this thing, but we'll see where it goes. Thank you, John Decker. John Decker live, our White House correspondent. Thank you, John. Brad Card, South Carolina, big primary today.
Yeah, well, I just want to comment on that last segment, too, because as far as Iran goes, we announced the D-Day for Iran, and right around the same time, we're announcing 50% tariffs with Canada. And I've had some congressional staff texting me, are we at war with Canada as well? Like, we're taking these massive sanctions against Iran, putting real financial, economic strain on Iran to get them to stop the war, and I understand that. And then we're announcing around the same time that we're putting 50% tariffs on our largest trading partner and neighbor, Canada. So just an observation. It's a question, you know?
Yeah. South Carolina.
South Carolina, interesting. Boy, lousy debate for Darlene Graham, no question about it, and gave pause to the momentum that she had. I think it her momentum came to a screeching halt in South Carolina. And a question is, will she have enough to hold on? And is Donald Trump's weight enough to get her over the finish line? You know, you've also got Nikki Haley supporting Ralph Norman. You got former Governor Sanford supporting Ralph Norman. So, you know, he's no stranger to politics. He's been in Congress a while, and he's been one of the vocal fiscal hawks on Capitol Hill. He's been on the Budget Committee, and, you know, I think he's been a thorn in the side a lot of times to Republican leadership, quite candidly. But he's in the race, and he's a pro. He knows what he's doing. I don't think he's made any of those missteps like Darlene. And I watched the clip of that debate, and, you know, my observation is that was almost disqualifying. And the question is, can she rebound from that? And do people care? We talk about debates. We were just talking about debates about John Sununu and Scott Brown. I don't think either one of those candidates would make that rookie mistake. And boy, it's interesting. It's gonna. My guess is it's going to be a squeaker. I think it's going to be really close, and we'll have to see how strong Donald Trump is, quite frankly, in South Carolina.
And South Carolina, I would think, is a little more Republican than here. It's interesting. Before I let you go, Brad Card Live, we were talking about that Brown Sununu primary and skipping the debate story next week by one of the candidates, Mr. Sununu. You had mentioned that in some cases in the past, not debating became an issue. I've seen that, and then I've seen it not matter. In other words, the person won anyway, and past races here. Does this, with 2 weeks to go, it's clear to me the Sununu camp thinks the risk is not worth it. They have it won. Do you think it opens up a door unnecessarily where Brown can make some hay with voters and make it closer, or not?
Well, it certainly gives them something to talk about on the campaign trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're both so professional. I don't think either one of them are going to make those kind of rookie mistakes at a debate. I would be shocked
mm-hmm.
if there was much news coming out of the debate. So the fact that they're not debating, it almost gives them a platform. That's the news story, right?
Yeah,
the news is they're not debating, as opposed to what they said in the debate. And I don't see either guy making big missteps in a debate. So I think the risk for someone like John Sununu would probably be fairly low, considering he's very skilled and it's not his first rodeo, you know?
Okay, good stuff. All right, Brad, we're going to take a break because we have to, but enjoy some sunshine, and we'll catch you in a bit. Brad Card Live. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H. Back with Paul Steinhauser. Actually, Brad, if you want to stick around, Steiny is coming up in a moment.
News, information, and discussion.
You're listening to Good Morning New Hampshire with Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, well, we're in that season. You may not be thinking about it because of time of year, back to school, weather. You don't want to rush it. Labor Day's around the corner. I can't believe I'm saying that. So many people, if you're not involved in the political fray, other than whatever news you catch, however you get it, and hopefully News Talk is the way you're getting it, more people listening across our AM and FM network. And I don't really mention this as much as I should. We now are well into broadcasting up into the state of Maine, where they do need more good news talk. And we have additional FM strength and signals for you up there. 98.7 FM HD2 if you like that digital clarity stuff. 98.1 FM. Lakes region, we've added another FM station or signal, which is cool. 107.3 FM, 98.3 FM HD2, 107.7 FM. And, of course, our AM network. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, worldwide, play the Pulse of an H. J-Dog, we never got to our, well, Steiny's with us, poll question. Results from yesterday, our poll question this morning is, you think what we were just talking about with John Decker, our White House correspondent, do you think these economic sanctions, so-called economic D-Day, against Iran or any other nation doing business with them will help to end the war in Iran? Yes or no? J-Dog, results from yesterday.
Do you agree with the new tariffs placed on Canada by the U.S.? 63.6% saying yes, 36.4% saying no.
Wow,
I guess they want to pay thousands for hockey sticks.
Reminder, tomorrow we will be live at is it the 43rd? Do I hear that?
43rd.
Annual Gail Singer Memorial Blood Drive. And for the Red Cross, but it's not really, it's for the hospitals. But what I want to say here, the reason why we do this, it's for you, me, the person next to you. You never know until you need it. You never know until you need blood that you're going to need it. I mean, I'll give you another example. I've been talking about driving a lot lately and how bad some of the driving is out there. Distracted, fast, crazy, irresponsible, selfish, stupid. You know, I was coming across this morning to the Capitol, our studios, and on Route 4, and I don't know, I think it was in Northwood, there was a pretty bad accident. I mean, there's usually not a good accident out there. When there's an accident and you see traffic stopped and red lights and fire trucks and ambulances and police, it's not good, right? There was at least one car flipped right over in a grassy area off the road, upside down. And there were a lot of ambulances there. And I'm sure the people involved in that accident, and I hope they are okay, had no idea a couple hours ago this morning when they left to go to work or school or do an errand that they might be going to a hospital or worse. And when you get there, you might need some blood. And there's critical shortages, and we don't think about it. So we'll be live tomorrow, Doubletree Hotel, downtown Manchester. CJ, myself, DK. CJ's already signed up for right after the show, and we've been doing this each year. We had Dr. Greg Baxter on from the Elliott Healthcare System a week or so ago. I think it was last week. And, when during birth, when a young mom is having a child, it's one of the most needed times for blood transfusions, and a lot of people didn't know that. So it could be something like that. It could be someone who's battling a terminal illness or an accident, as I said. But you don't know that until you know, and you just assume the blood's going to be in the hospital. Different types of blood. And, despite all the technology of today, blood is still only from humans. So join us tomorrow morning live as we promote, and it's the largest blood drive in America, 2-day blood drive tomorrow. Manchester, the Singer family, and Steven Singer and the family will be there. I love it each year because it's so important. You don't know it until you need blood. Paul Steinhauser reports nationally for Fox News and locally for Good Morning New Hampshire, the Pulse of Edge. Good morning, Steiny.
Hey, good morning, Jack. If it's Tuesday, we must have some primaries somewhere in the country, and we sure do. Let's talk about Georgia first. There's a vacant Democrat-controlled U.S. House seat. It's up for grabs. The two finalists in the runoff today are Democrats, which means once that person is seated, the Republican majority in the House will be even further razor thin. I mean, the Republicans are just barely holding on right now with that extremely fragile majority of the House. But the two big contests today are in South Carolina and in Oklahoma, and that's where President Trump's endorsements are on the line today in South Carolina. This is the Republican runoff primary for the U.S. Senate. Remember the late Lindsey Graham dying last month? His younger sister, Darlene, was appointed to fill out the rest of his term, but she's also running to be on the ballot to serve a whole new 6-year term. Trump has endorsed her. She's facing off against conservative Congressman Ralph Norman. Trump even went down to South Carolina on Friday to have a big rally, so he's really put a lot of muscle, a lot of MAGA muscle into that one. He's also backing one of the two finalists in Oklahoma in the GOP gubernatorial runoff election there today. So keep your eyes on the results on both those races, Jack.
Yeah, and again, the South Carolina one, I think it's probably because it's the late Senator Graham, and his sister was going to complete the term and not run. Now she's running. Do you get a sense on that? Excuse me. Do you get a sense on that outcome or not?
It's a close race. Both those contests are close. In fact, I think it's one of the reasons why the president went down there on Friday and is probably doing another tele-rally for her tonight. His super PAC has put a lot of money into the race. So, yeah, it's a close contest, and the president definitely wants to see his candidates succeed. Listen, the Trump endorsement remains extremely powerful in Republican primaries, but there have been some setbacks, including 2 last week in gubernatorial races.
Real quick, Paul, in the last minute, Paul Steinhauser. I've been asked this. I'm going to ask you, do we have a sense yet with the midterm elections in the House in Washington, House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, which party has an edge based on a lot of these primaries and developments and redistricting? Do the Democrats have an edge in the House and Republicans in the Senate, or do you have a quick read on that or not? Too early to tell?
No, not too early to tell. Listen, Republicans got a big boost with the redistricting wars. They're over, and the Republicans got a net gain of about 10 seats in the U.S. House. That'll help them, but they're up, as we all know, they're up against a really, really rough political climate. Mm-hmm. So if this is a wave election, those 10 seats, that won't be enough. In the Senate, let's be honest, the Democrats have made some major gains. They still have a tough path to win back the majority, but it's doable. And that's why these elections are going to be so crucial come November.
All right, Paul Steinhauser, thanks for the time this morning live. Big primaries, including South Carolina. What's the other? Oklahoma and the other?
Oklahoma and Georgia.
Georgia. Thank you, Paul.
See you, Jack.
When we come back, we're going to go over to the Seacoast. Alicia Preston Xanthopoulos, Seacoast Online. A little bit later on, Dean Spiliotis will weigh in. Mike Cody with a business update. 11 o'clock, we're going to hear from a prosecutor here in the Granite State. And, we're looking at this case in Massachusetts, the Clancy case, the mother, the defense essentially saying because of mental health issues, because of depression, because of other things, she wasn't really of sound, mind and body responsible for what she did, killing her 3 children. Of course, it was just August 18th, a year ago, 2025, in Madbury in the Long family, where the mother killed her 2 young sons, her husband, and then took her own life. And these cases happen around the country. They're really, it's just horrific. But the question is, in the Clancy case in Mass, we're going to hear from a New Hampshire prosecutor on what are the dynamics at work, what's it like working these cases. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, by the Pulse of an H. It's Tuesday. Jack Heath, J-Dog on the board's back in a moment.